2023 was tough. As somebody who works with copywriters, a lot of them got freaked out in 2023. Fair enough. And we're not seeing the same sort of panic in 2024, which makes it a much better year already. An advantage of being in tech and going around and speaking at events. This is a joke, by the way, what I'm about to say, just for those who are like, wait, what? But the advantage is there's no lineup at the bathroom. There's never a lineup at a CRO event or a tech event in the women's bathroom. Men hold the majority of positions of power, and so men do get to choose. Are they going to bring women with them or not? They have a level of privilege that comes with that, and some are willing to share that privilege, and that's like really meaningful for women who don't want special advantages. I don't need you to treat me specially. Just don't hold me back because of whatever you see or the network that I am not allowed to be in. So I've been talking with these people about AI, and there was so much panic and fear for the first little bit of 2023. And then it was so refreshing to go to Amsterdam at the end of 2023 and have people go, oh, it'll be fine. I loved the lack of panic over it because I don't think there's cause to panic. Follow the system, measure, and then just repeat iteratively, as we all know we're supposed to do. And then you feel better and better and better about the results you get, and it being a culture of experimentation because it's not about you. And thus a failure is not about you. When a woman says something in a meeting, you listen to her equally as you do when a man says something. If somebody, woman or man, is cutting somebody else off when they're talking, you stop and you correct that behavior, because very often it is a woman being cut off.
Welcome to another episode of the Women in CRO series by VWO Podcast. This series is an ode to the contribution of women in the CRO industry. Before we speak to our special guest for this episode, here's a quick summary of who we are and what we do. VWO is a leading experience optimization platform that helps fast-growing brands optimize their digital experiences. Using our latest product, VWO Insights, you can understand user journeys and identify conversion roadblocks on your website and mobile app. So, without any further delay, let's jump right into the conversation.
Welcome to today's episode of Women in CRO. I'm so excited today. It's my favorite personal influencer that we have today, Joanna Wiebe. As you may all know, she is the founder at Copy Hackers and the copy chief at CH Agency and the OG copy wizard.
Thanks, that's fun.
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Tutorial Tuesdays. Oh my God. By it.
That's amazing. Thank you. I'm so glad to hear that.
So for nearly 15 years, Joanna has been entrusted by incredible companies like VWO, Canva, PT, Glowforge, Intuit. This is just among a few that I can name. So she's done incredible work with cracking the game of copy for them. Apart from this, she's a personal favorite and the audience favorite when it comes to Sakes Alive, Search Love, Inbound, Moscon, to name a few, where she's taught us to create copies that convert, and that's something that we'll talk about today. Apart from this, I'd love our audience to also learn and understand that she has worked with over 70,000 individuals, starting from startups to international agencies, doing the magic and weaving the van of creating, converting copies. So join us while we dive into this world of CRO with our talented Joanna Wiebe.
Thank you. What a great intro, man. I'm going to feel good all day.
Yes. Now try it.
Excellent. I love it.
Well, how are you doing today?
I'm great. It's my start of day. So I have a little coffee here to help me through it, but it is Friday for me too. So this is my content focus day, which is always fun because so much of the week is just busy, right? And then now you just get to sit down and talk with someone like you, which is so fun, and then work on a book and all this other stuff. So it's a good day. Yeah.
count me in as a buyer already. I'm converted.
Thanks.
So, and that's about your day. How about the year? How has 2024 been treating you?
Good. So far, I mean, I know we're only a short-ish bit into it, but it's been better. 2023 was tough. I know we're going to talk a bit about AI and stuff like that, but as somebody who works with copywriters, a lot of them got freaked out in 2023. Fair enough. And we're not seeing the same sort of panic in 2024, which makes it a much better year already, just like from like an emotion perspective, like it just feels nicer, you know?
Yes, yeah, I feel you. I completely feel you. So, growing up, did you always want to be in this field, or was it something completely different?
Yeah, no, I had no idea. I remember when I was growing up, I mean, I always liked writing, and I was always very quiet. So listening, came pretty easily to me compared to like doing much talking. So now I talk quite a bit, for a living, but it's kind of out of the norm for like my background as a, shy, quiet person who really explored feelings and ideas on the page. And then, you grow up and you get exposed to other parts in life. So copywriting, I knew about advertising because I remember on the show, Who's the Boss? Which it was Angela, by the way. Obviously, she was the boss. I don't understand. But she was in advertising. And I was like, whoa. I remember there was a scene where she was like in front of a, not a whiteboard, but like a big pad of paper, as we used to always use, right? And she was presenting an idea. And I think I was like 8, 9 years old, something like that. And I was like, wow, you can get paid for like having creative ideas. What are you talking about? Like, this was mind blowing to me. And so, but then I put that aside, like, well, that's for people who moved to New York City. That's not for people like me, is what I, kind of believed. But then, fast forward, life happens, all these things go on, and I got exposed to copywriting. And then shortly thereafter, A/B testing became more like democratized. You could test in ways that obviously, with VWO, you just couldn't do beforehand, right? So when that happened, this like collision of me learning about copywriting, like practicing it, getting better and better, and like taking it seriously, and then working at a tech company where A/B testing became a big part of the organization, and we adjusted. Sorry, it is Friday and my coffee is only halfway complete, so I'm missing some words in my vocabulary, but we were shuffled around really into new departments, and one of those was a growth department that was focused on experimentation. So I got led in this direction, but it was always kind of there, this idea of being able to get paid to come up with ideas that influence people and then see if those ideas work.
That's crazy. I mean, I love you build a skill of active listening and grew it to something amazing. Using your talent and identifying that writing is something that you can use as an influencer. Like, that is beautiful.
Cool. Love it. Thanks.
So you've been in the industry about roughly 15, 16 years now. So how have you seen the journey of copy change in this industry? And do you think maybe now industries pay attention to it?
I think that's a really good question. It's changed, but I think as the industry has kind of widened, as more and more people in organizations take on experimentation, even though maybe they don't love it, they're just kind of put in that role. And we work a lot in email. So clients that we work with are working on life cycle programs and just like basically testing and optimizing their way through a lot of emails, which of course email is part of a bigger funnel, etc. So other pages get affected and so on and so forth, but there's a lot in there with email. And there are a lot of people who are in conversion rate optimization who don't care about email, or don't care about copy. And so I think that's always been sort of true. But the differences that I see, and I don't know if anybody listening will agree, if you've been in CRO for over a decade, you have seen, this shift from everybody being like so excited about A/B testing to taking it more seriously, and then not taking it seriously at all, and like not implementing the winner of a test and going like, and calling tests before they're statistically significant, or just being like, well, it's not significant and there's barely a lift, but we liked variation A better, so we're going to go with that. And I'm like, no. But that's not necessarily just about copy, right? That's like, as conversion optimization becomes something that more and more marketers and growth folks and people in product marketing are thinking about and then practicing, you're going to have people who love certain things more than others. So when it comes to how the role of copy has changed in conversion optimization over the years, I would say there was a big push in the early years. The early adopters of VWO and tools for experimentation were all very excited about largely like direct response sorts of techniques. So copy was a watchword, right? Like everybody was copy, 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 copy. And that was great. Design was focused on like persuasion, architecture, and emotion. And then, there became more mass adoption of CRO and the idea of CRO, and maybe all of the techniques and terminology didn't go along with that. And so people are now graduated into growth roles that I'm seeing, at least. A lot of people are graduated into these growth or experimentation roles, and they weren't, this is going to sound like too nostalgic, but they weren't there in the beginning when we saw what split testing can do for a business, these insights you can get that you used to just fully only be able to guess at, or that were purely reserved for people with masses of money in laboratories. You now have access to them. So I think the enthusiasm for what CRO and copy in particular is part of an experiment, the enthusiasm has shifted. I think that what I would love to see is people who are in CRO talking again about those key elements, your offer, the words on the page, as in the copy, how that gets expressed emotionally with the design elements and things like that. And I don't see businesses paying more attention to copy now than ever. Some always will. Some will always get it, but others may not. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting point about emails and how people view copy overall on the website. And people fail to remember that even if email traffic is too less, the conversion rate is massive, depending on the type of traffic that you have, and just optimizing that and just making money out of that. And if you don't see that, I mean, okay, I don't want to use words on the call, but then,
Yeah. I agree. There's so much opportunity, so much in a good email. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I remember from one of your lessons about using a simple technique of your and you. And that's about understanding psychology of the visitors. That's it. Like, you respect the person coming on your website. So as long as you get the psychology behind it, you express with the emotions needed to reach out to your visitors, I think then we can do a crazy job with copy. But yeah, I agree.
Yes. Yeah.
I still get rejected when I suggest copy tests, and in a quote, I only get to run like 3 or 4, and I have to beg. So I hope clients are listening.
Yeah. Run more copy tests. Yes.
Yes, please. Could you also maybe shed some light on your approach as a business leader and now an author, and how was it, and then maybe the challenges initially because you're a woman, and the advantages that you have, especially in this industry?
An advantage of being in tech and going around and speaking at events. This is a joke, by the way, what I'm about to say, just for those who are like, wait, what? But the advantage is there's no lineup at the bathroom. There's never a lineup at a CRO event or a tech event in the women's bathroom. And so that's a problem, right? Like, it's good because I don't have to wait in line anymore. but it's clearly, a problem. I think that it's important to think about and respect that it's a different job in many ways to be a woman in a leadership role, a woman in a role that's like maybe dominated by men. For me, I feel like I've been really blessed to I know it's not the case for everybody, by the way, but for me, I've been really blessed to kind of be it's always tough to articulate, right? So there's men in positions of power, which is axiomatic. We know this to be true. Men hold the majority of positions of power. And so men do get to choose. Are they going to bring women with them or not, right? And so if they're going, and I've been lucky to be, I'm not always, but there have been really clear moments for me where I have had men in positions of power say, hey, let's do this together. Hey, let's come along together. And that's, for me, been massive, because if no men were doing that, it would be like a constant like battle, right? Because these are the people who do hold the power, and not all of them want to, and they didn't ask for this, right? But they have a level of privilege that comes with that, and some are willing to share that privilege, and that's like really meaningful for women who don't want special advantages. I don't need you to treat me specially, just don't hold me back because of whatever you see or the network that I am not allowed to be in. So I feel like I've had a lot of advantages in that my network, at least the people who stand out, there's always going to be people who aren't there to help you and who would like to keep you down, whatever. I don't find that is, that doesn't give me positive energy to think about it. I'd rather think about, the Rand Fishkins of the world, the Heaton Shaws of the world, Rob Walling, people who along the way, Andrew Wilkinson, people along the way who have not even seemed to consider any differences in us, and just like, we're all cool, right? Like, we're all working towards big, cool things. You have great ideas. I have great ideas. You work hard. I work hard. Let's do stuff together. And so for me, it's felt very advantageous just to be out in this world. If I wanted to stop and think about it, I have definitely seen men fly through and get to really cool places. And maybe in my view of it, it didn't look like they maybe worked as hard as a lot of the women that I see who don't get those advantages or those like shortcuts to the top. But to me, that's not energizing. I don't want to ignore it because it's a real problem a lot of people have. What I've also been very lucky with is, and I say luck, and it's much more than luck, but I do think, I'm put in the right place at the right time. I say yes to things a lot, and that means that you end up in situations that can be to your advantage. So I'm part of this group called the Shine Crew. Have you heard about Shine?
No.
Okay. Shine there's an article 10 years ago that was written on this concept of shine, which is women lifting each other up consciously. So instead of traditionally, we've been like in competition with each other. There's only one role at the top for a woman. So you better make sure that you battle every woman on your way there, and you make all the other 9 men on the board look or feel great about you at the expense of the women who are also competing with you, right? So we've had a lot of competition. And this shine is this idea of stop that and actively reach down with the people who are coming up, and trust that some woman above you will also reach to pull you up. And that's what we do. So I have this Shine crew that I'm part of. It's really like a mastermind for women. But I've got, friends, really close friends as part of it. April Dunford's in my Shine crew, and she's amazing. Talia Wolf, Gia Lowdy, Claire Suellentrop, Tiffany De Silva, Tara Robertson. Like, we have a very wonderful group, and that's just scratching the surface. I'm leaving so many people out. But that has been a huge advantage too. And it's helped me to grow my business as a woman and make strong connections, not just with men in positions of power, but with other women who are coming up together and bringing the next generation and helping those around us as well. So that's been my experience as a woman in this industry.
Oh my God, this is crazy. And this reminds me of a tradition in one part, and it's actually a secret society tradition of women in the pre-independence time. And they did exactly what you said.
Really?
They used to gather, hide away from men, and read books and learn more, write poetry. And they used to gather all women, different age groups, and gather them around. And this used to happen only in West Bengal. It's Calcutta now.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so inspiring. Like this, we are connected. Like all of us, they should just let
women
us.
Are amazing.
They should just let us run the world, and there's not going to be wars anymore.
Totally. That's so funny. That's cool. That's very cool. I love that.
Yeah. So let's now address the elephant in the room and talk about generative AI.
Yes.
And how have you helped our fellow community of copywriters move from sad 2023 to happy 2024?
Yeah, no kidding. So I it's interesting. I feel like, I don't know if it was in North America or what, but in November, December 2022, I was having dinner with a few copywriters who are in this area around here, and we got to talking about ChatGPT right away because it was like such a big deal already. Like it was already blowing up for those who had for early adopters in the world. And so that kind of set off 2023. And then last November, I was at an event near Amsterdam, and there was a session on AI. And I don't know if it was a European thing, simply because forgive me, anybody who's listening from Europe and is like, you don't know what you're talking about. This was one experience I had there, but it was a group, it was a full event. There were like a couple hundred people there. And the session on AI, it was pretty dismissive about AI. And I kind of found it refreshing because I had been going to events in all sorts of other places, a lot of them in the US, and talking with people in my network in North America, primarily just due to time zones, usually because I'm online when somebody else is like in bed in other parts of the world. So I've been talking with these people about AI, and there was so much panic and fear for the first little bit of 2023. And then it was so refreshing to go to Amsterdam at the end of 2023 and have people go, oh, it'll be fine. Just take it in stride. I loved the lack of panic over it because I honestly, I don't think there's cause to panic. And that's what I think a lot of copywriters finally figured out. Those who survived 2023 figured out by the end, oh, wait. My job has not been to do the work that AI does. That's never been my job. I was just stuck doing it because nobody else could. It had to get done, and it's part of copywriting. So I guess I'll do that too. But now those parts can be outsourced to AI. And I know that a lot of North Americans and non-North American, I think maybe everybody's been thinking like, okay, AI is your co-pilot, it's your co-pilot, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is it actually is though. Like for copywriters, they're seeing like, oh, wait, AI can come up with some cool stuff, but it doesn't replace me. It doesn't do what I do. Not yet. And maybe one day it will. I'm not naive about it. But it doesn't. It can take care of synthesizing research in sometimes useful ways. Sometimes it's wrong. It can take care of a first draft. That can be actually really great. So it's just kind of like having an intern. And so when I try to help copywriters understand how to use AI, and that you really must use AI. If you're not, you're kind of just being silly, right? It's a really good, it's like a designer 10 years ago not using Photoshop. No, You're going to want to use this. It's going to make your life better. It's going to make things go faster. It's going to make everything look better too. And that's the case for AI, for copywriters today, I would say. AI can come up with a bunch of headlines for you to test. Sure, great. That's not what we actually do though. We're not like word monkeys who just sit there and like type stuff out. That's never been the job. And anybody who thinks that was the job, I hate to say it because it sounds harsh, but they probably shouldn't have been in this job anyway. It's strategic, it's thoughtful, it's thinking about how humans think, not just a formula for a headline, not just word choice, but so much more than that, more than making it sound good. Like we are in persuasion, we are in the skill set of psychology and really thinking deeply about how people make decisions. So that for me has been like, great, I can still do the best parts of my job, and then I just get ChatGPT to do all the crappy parts that I didn't want to do anyway. So, and I think a lot of copywriters are seeing it the same way too.
That's an interesting take. It's like you are the vehicle and you just use ChatGPT as petrol or diesel and then get going, and that's it.
Exactly. I love that. Yes.
Yes. So apart from this, I was intrigued when you said it's about persuasion. It's about understanding human psychology and talking back to them. So how do we then measure conversion? What is your take on convincing the big brands on, okay, this is how your conversion is going to change, or this is how you now develop a culture of creating converting copies?
Yeah. Creating a culture of conversion copywriting in CRO is like this whole other thing, obviously, right? As you well know, it's a difficult thing to do, but it does, I think, start with those metrics, as you were saying, like measure this stuff. I'm always fascinated by people in marketing who are hesitant to measure. To me, it just speaks to like a fear that you believe you'll be found out for guessing and not thinking in like your customer's shoes or your prospect's shoes, not having that empathy that's required. The most persuasive people in the world are inherently just packed with empathy for the person that they're listening to and trying to motivate toward the right call for them, coach in the direction of that conversion. But in order for anybody to create that culture of focus on conversion, a conversion focused copy, you do have to be measuring conversion then. And that's always been every marketer's job. It just was hard before, and now it's easy. And so it can be, obviously attribution is a challenge, et cetera, et cetera. But if we look at marketing as a whole, or growth as a whole, like that, you've got product and you've got marketing, you've got customer success as like the big three in most organizations. Marketing, including sales, including everything that goes with marketing, is responsible for converting people. Customer success and product might do retention and all that kind of stuff, but we got to attract and we've got to convert. So if that's our job, then we just have to be measured. And if you are measured on, did this convert a visitor into a lead, where that lead is maybe qualified in different ways, but nonetheless is in the big category of lead. If you got them from visitor to lead, now we nurture them from lead to customer, and then we keep them happy with customer success. So we're measuring leads, quantity of leads, quality of leads, and we're measuring whether they turned into paid users or paid customers or not. And did we bring them back? Did we retain them? Did we increase average order value? All that kind of stuff. So if we can bring those metrics into an organization, if they're not using it or they know them, a lot of organizations are like, oh, of course we do. But like they don't practice or operationalize actually measuring this stuff and reporting it. And there's a lot of, just kind of shuffling paper around. If we can measure it, then we can improve it. And I know a lot of marketers are scared of that. They know that, but they're still scared of it because it's like, well, how do we improve it? And that's where it's like, probably with the message, first and foremost, you probably don't need to do a whole redesign of something. You don't need to play with certain colors on a page. Sometimes, yes, sometimes that's low-hanging fruit. Sometimes a button color test is easy peasy. You get it out the door. You actually got a win on it. People feel good about it. But other times it is just like, listen to your customers and reflect back what you hear in like the things that they say, how they say it, reflect it back in your copy and run that as a test, measure it. And it's okay if you were wrong. And that's one of the most liberating things about the conversion copywriting process, which begins with research and discovery. You listen to the voice of the customer, and then you move it into frameworks and formulas. So you can take like the problem that you've heard them say they have, agitate it, how it manifests in their lives, and then solutions they've tried that have failed them. And then your solutions, that's problem, agitation, solutions that have failed them, and then solutions that are yours. So PASS is kind of one way of looking at it. You throw voice of customer in those parts all the way up to like everything, even your own one. Once you get to the part where you introduce your solution and it's your value proposition as the headline in a lot of cases in this point, like I'm really jumping into the weeds of actually writing conversion copy, but you're doing all of this stuff. And what you can think and start to see is, oh, wait, I'm not guessing anymore. I was always afraid of being measured as a marketer because there's this sense that I'm guessing. And in some cases, I was fully guessing. I had no freaking clue. I just wanted to get the thing done. And so I guessed. This way, I can just listen to what customers say, write it down, take their language, like almost verbatim in most cases, and then place it in a framework that I also didn't come up with. So if I can do that, now it's not me that failed in that test. And it's also not me that made the test win either. It's the system. That's all that all businesses, great businesses are built on. And that's what great marketing is built on too. This system. Listen, put it in a framework, test it. Didn't work? Okay, let's hypothesize why it didn't work. And now we do it again and again. So I know we're kind of going off the focus of your question around like, how do you make that culture? But I really do think it comes down to step away from acting like it's a personal thing that you're like your brain is tied up in. Follow the system, measure, and then just repeat iteratively, as we all know we're supposed to do. And then you feel better and better and better about the results you get, and it being a culture of experimentation because it's not about you. And thus a failure is not about you.
That's a very loud and clear message, and I hope everybody hears this one. And it's interesting how you mentioned how you've covered actually all of the 5 steps of CRO and the healthy principle of iterative testing. And I love how you beautifully mentioned that create your own past technology or your past formula so that you can create that culture as well. Keeping that in mind, do you think psychological triggers are important there?
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So I think, people who are, most of us were exposed to psychological triggers with Cialdini's book Influence. The first one, not the one where he came up with the 7th one, not that that's not great too, but we were mostly influenced by influence. The book was called Influence. So those are the 6 key persuasion principles. And that was out, 20, 25, 30 years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was out long enough ago that it's really shaped a lot of marketers today and people who are in experimentation and CRO. And so we know in the foundations of what we know that persuasion is a big part of it. Then you dive in and you're like, holy crap, there's so many biases. There are so many reasons why we buy. There are so many triggers you can pull. And then it starts to feel a bit like party tricks, right? Where you're like, which one should we try today? Should we use the word because? And that gets into like, I feel like, yes, psychological triggers are hugely important. No, they shouldn't be used like party tricks. It's not a magic act. It's not going to work. The word because isn't as magical as maybe we heard it is in Cialdini's Influence. There's a really good study, right? I think we've all heard the study of the person who cuts in line in the Xerox lineup. Can I cut it in front of you because I need to make copies? And we hear that and go like, wow, I just have to use the word because our next test is going to be with the word because. And it's like, it's not a trick though. It probably won't work because that's not how conversion actually happens. We need to have a solid base, full understanding, and ongoing education in how people make buying decisions. But that doesn't mean you walk away with, we're going to pull this lever and money's going to fly out the other side. It's not going to work. It's not going to work that way. If it did, you wouldn't be able to get access to that psychological trigger. It would be so covered in like all sorts of legal to keep anybody from using it, because it would be a money-making machine. So we can't just use these psychological triggers and say, great, we're going to get a winning test. But we can say, okay, we understand that these triggers include, you're really talking to the lizard brain a lot. Okay, so if our designer and our copywriter both understand that when a person lands on a page, their lizard brain is the first thing that's enacted. It's the first thing that flies up to the top, right? It's there right away to make sure that the space is safe. As long as our designer knows that, then they design the page to look like a safe space for the lizard brain. And our copywriter doesn't write anything that would make the lizard brain freak out and run away. Okay, we got that? Cool. So we can like obviously take what we know about how people make these decisions and what gets in the way of them and apply it. But I would just caution anybody who like wants to use triggers in their experiments, not to put too much pressure on it. Use a lot of them. Use all of the right ones at that right moment. And that's, again, the thing that a smart marketer figures out. AI doesn't. We do. We think through that. We do the reading. We figure out the strategy. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I mean, just especially with the word because, I mean, I've faced a similar experience where we've had a run-in with the word discount and offers and the word sale as well. Oh my God, and that made such a massive effect. And different parts of the state, different parts of India, different parts of the UK. Oh my God, it was so interesting to see how important listening is and using correct psychological principles. So maybe for our copy enthusiasts out there, any of your favorite principles that you'd like to mention?
So my favorite principle is just mirroring, and that is reflect back the person that they want to be. In a lot of cases, it's a simplified version of that. There's always a time and a place for everything. I don't think that you're going to be able to run a campaign very successfully without some level of urgency or scarcity involved. Social proof goes a long way on everything. And again, I'm going back to those foundational like Cialdini principles in these cases. And then there's just other fun ones, right? Other biases that you can tap into. A lot of like the biases that are bad in like a legal argument are really good in a marketing argument. Like you're not allowed to say like an ad hominem, like when you're talking about a person. In legal, you can't attack a person, or you shouldn't attack a person or the speaker. But in marketing, you can do that all day, and have it be quite effective. It's not so much psychological triggers because, again, I don't use them that way, but it's like what we know about people. So favorite things to do based on what we know about how people behave is something like a one-word subject line. Like that's not a psychological trigger, but it is something that's like, we know people don't like paying attention to all of the stimuli around them. So if you can have like a 4-letter word, not a bad one, obviously, there are a lot of bad 4-letter words. So if you can have one of those as your subject line, it stands out in an inbox, right? And so that's, again, tapping into what your lizard brain sees first. It almost doesn't matter what the word is because you just want to get them to pay attention, right? Just like look at it. And then throw a question mark on the end of it as like variation B, same word, but with a question mark on the end of it. And that's also really interesting to test. But yeah, when it comes down to it, like, of all the things that are out there that we could say, here's a psychological principle, X, Y, or Z. I think most of what Cialdini said, I would say those are my favorite, simply because anybody who's in CRO should have a account on deepdive.com. That's like this full, all the academic studies you can imagine on all of the things people are learning in academic settings. For real studies, and that can influence all of the stuff that we're doing. But it typically does come back down to Cialdini's principles, where possibly, some of those are dying a bit online, possibly because they're overused, or possibly just because things like people have now an expectation of getting something for free. So reciprocity may not work as well online as it did work in an airport when you were handing out a flower to someone coming in, and then there's a sense of I better return something, like give you my attention. That's not the case anymore. It's just take. And that's true for online, but that's my least favorite. Reciprocity is not something I would tap into or expect to get anything real out of in an online setting where like there's anonymity and you're going for scale. Does that help? I know I don't have a specific principle, but I think they all just come up in practice. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, that's a beautiful summarization of the 7 principles, and it immediately invoked the KFC McDonald's war in my mind when you said one word, because they keep doing the same thing, yum and snack, and all that you do is look at chicken wings, and oh my God, you die for some chicken wings.
Chicken wings, that's awesome. That's hilarious.
What do you think are the biggest challenge as a CRO expert in today's digital landscape?
It's the same one it's always been. And this is going to sound snobbish, but it's non-experts coming in and acting like experts. It can be really difficult for somebody who's very good at the job that they do and who takes it seriously to oftentimes sit in an audience or in some way, almost be forced to watch people who don't take it seriously, kind of garbling things up for us, which again, I know it sounds snobbish, but I think anybody who does take it seriously will likely agree with me on that point. I was at an event a while ago, and one of my friends who's in the Shine crew, who's got a fantastic CRO agency, was a little frustrated because one of the speakers was talking about the results of an experiment that had been done and used the word percent to calculate the outcome of a test when there were fewer than 100 people involved in it. And anybody who takes this job seriously is pretty annoyed by that. And my friend was like, percent, it's for 100. You have to have at least 100 people. And she was like really passionate about it, not to the speaker, but to me afterwards. And I was like, oh, okay. Wow, that's a really good point. I love how seriously you take this, because a lot of us are annoyed by like, so it's not statistically significant, but you're still calling it a win. What are you talking about? Like, how are you going to, how does that play? Or you ran all of the little problems that we have. But that, I think that's continues to be one of the biggest challenges, is people who are not experts acting like they are. I know it's snobby, but it's the reality. It just makes it bad for everybody else, because some people come in, they think, oh, experiments, cool, I want to be involved in this. And they're really just like chasing something fun to do. But the rest of us are here to really coach our clients, not through tricks, but through we can actually grow your business without you changing your product. We can grow it by saying different things to people at the right time, by putting things together differently, and not by standing on a stage and saying, 86% of people in a group of 13 people did this, right? It's like, that's not how that works at all. So that's going to be the challenge. And that's the challenge, I think, for everybody. There's a lot of challenges in the digital landscape. Attribution is a very difficult challenge, of course. But when it comes down to how people respect or do not respect the work that we do, what happens to our work after like a test has run, and it's a question of, do we implement or don't we? based on the results of that. We need everybody in the room to buy into this being the skilled work that it is, done by smart people who care about this stuff and will do it in our own culture of experimentation that respects it deeply, like a scientist in a lab respects it. Even if I don't have a PhD in whatever and I didn't sit in a lab, I respect it the same way, and have learned things along the way and grown that expertise. And that's what we really continue to need, is those people who care so deeply about getting really good results for our clients, and then finding a way to push out the noisy stuff from people who really just don't care.
I mean, I don't think it's snobbish at all, and I don't think our visitors, or sorry, our audiences are gonna feel that either. And that's how the periodic table is invented. I mean, people putting things in the periodic table. I mean, now everyone should be aware that it's important that when a copywriter asks for a requirement sheet, there is a need and purpose to it. It's important for us to understand the emotions, respond with empathy, and then come up with strategies that work for our visitors.
Yeah.
A beautiful way to put a lovely challenge that all of us face every single day. That's lovely.
Yes.
Maybe open to sharing a project or an achievement that you are particularly proud of?
Gosh, there are so many. There's so many good ones. I'm proud of the ones where we lost on the first round, but still had the client enthusiastic enough to come back and test again and again until that win. So that's like overall when those things happen. But when I think about like one or two that are that I'm particularly proud of, I have talked about this one a lot, but it's because I thought it was like very cool. I mean, it's hard. We've done so many cool tests, but this one I did years ago. I apologize to anybody who has seen me talk about it at like CXL Live or something like that. Or maybe you're like, oh, good, I like to hear this one. I hope so, because I love to say this one. I was working with I feel bad for those who've heard it. I was working with this rehab center out in Florida. It's called Beachway. They had a CRO agency in, and the CRO agency subcontracted me to do the copy, to come up with the copy to test. So they were like, we need a new homepage hero. Let's test that. So can you come up with that? So cool, I do. I go out and I do the usual process that I'll walk through very quickly. In this case, in most cases, because conversion copywriting begins with this research and discovery process, discovery being one thing and research really going out and listening to people, it's very hard to do research with actual paying customers of a solution that's so transformative, like a rehab facility, rehabilitation, because that transformation is so real, because those feelings and how your life has been impacted can still be very raw. I am not in any way interested in running an interview with these people. What if I were to do or say something that would, God only knows how I could mess that up, right? I'm not going to do that. I don't have the skill set to interview someone from a marketing perspective when their life is at stake here, right? We're not talking about buying a sweater on jcrew.com. We're talking about something like there's not going to be a customer interview here. So I had to go around and find like, well, how do I come to understand what people who land on the homepage need to see and hear in order to move forward confidently? And so obviously empathy is a big part of that. But what I did, two things, and I think these are easy things to do, and that's what like it leads to this like proud moment at the end. I did an audit of competing websites for their tone, right? How are other rehab treatments that are rehab centers that our prospect may be considering, how are they talking to them? And there was this like tone of, it was very wordy for one, and very like soothing and patting you on the head and that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, okay, fine. But then I understood also that a lot of vast stunning proportion of people who go to these rehab centers are firefighters, are like men in roles of, I would call them like heightened masculinity. And that doesn't mean that that's always true. Please don't take that masculinity the wrong way, but I mean it in that like traditional sense of like, this is a man's job kind of thing, right? And all of the toxicity that can come with that, all sorts of trauma associated with it, not with masculinity, don't get me wrong, but with like being a firefighter and the things you have to see and do, coming from the military and having served in places. And I know women do these things too, don't get me wrong. But what we knew was men in these positions were going in and looking for these treatment facilities, or the people who love them are doing that, doing the research. So I'm seeing all this soft tone out there, right? All of this like, it's okay, we're going to get, I don't know, whatever. It was like this tone. You can search anything. You can search any rehab center and they're all doing the same thing. And then I went through, and because I couldn't talk to clients, I went through and did Amazon review mining for books on 12-step programs, on addiction, on alcohol addiction, on drug addiction, et cetera, and just looked at the reviews. All I wanted was to make sure the topic was right for the book and then look through reviews. And this tone was not the same in how people were talking about what they got out of the book. And my thinking is, with jobs to be done, you hire a book to do the job that you should be hiring rehab to do. Maybe you're not there yet. Maybe you don't have insurance coverage to go to rehab, et cetera. So you buy a book instead. And this one line in a review was something like, what I can tell you is, if you think you need rehab, you do. And I hadn't heard it put that way before. And I was like, I like this. It's saying it in kind of an interesting way. And the tone is both kind, but firm. And so I was like, maybe there's something here. So that's how I got this message that we then tested as a headline on the homepage against, it was a 4-way split test that was statistically significant. This is a very there are a lot of people who search for rehab centers. It's shocking. And I think, anyway, it doesn't matter. But point was, we got to significance. And we had, before we even launched this test, internally as a team, we were all like, which one's going to win? And we took bets on it. Nobody bet on, if you think you need rehab, you do. We also had a data point about success. We had a social proof, like a testimonial, as another headline on the homepage. And then the control was just like, Beachway is kind of like just a statement. Nobody thought that one was gonna win, so we were all right on that. But I think social proof got like the most thumbs up. Anyway, if you think you need rehab, you do, blew everything else out of the water to the tune of, I think it was, I'm going to say, a 400% increase in clicks on the homepage, through to on the landing page where you become a lead. That wasn't even supposed, that was like a secondary goal. They're like, let's just track it because they're a CRO agency and they're just like tracking everything. We got statistically significant increase in completed leads on the next page of like 26%. So you go from having empty beds that are worth $20,000 a month to a wait list for your rehab center, and the need and desire now to open more beds up. That's good. That's good because you're helping more people and it's a business and you're able to hire more doctors and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a good win. Why I'm proud of it is not just because it helped more people get into the treatment that they needed, but also one of the frameworks that came out of that was this like, if blank, then blank, where if, and I had never heard of such a framework before. Maybe somebody else does out there. Like, I know that if then statements are real things, and it's good, it taps into logic, right? I loved symbolic logic. Actually, I really like if then statements and like the clarity of that. But if, and then you match the thing that they're doing in that moment, then, and then you complete it with take action here, like you've come to the right place is the real takeaway. So if you want to look good for a wedding, then, and then you like show them the dress they should buy or something like that, right? So I loved that. That's what I'm proud of, is that we were able to listen to what people say, get a winning test out the door, a winner out, and then walk away with a framework that we could use to try to, again, repeat that sort of success for other people.
That's really cool. I mean, this is exactly what our developers also do. If-then statements, and that's how they create our magical website. So, oh my God, that just blew my mind.
I love it. It's so fun, right? Like there's so many fun things that we get to end up doing. Like our whole job is just so fun.
Correct. Yes, and I don't know why people don't see that it's a small thing can actually charge the way you think. And shout out to charge your neurons out there. You can also listen to a few music that Joe always puts out. That always helps me. Yay.
That's so cool.
What do you think, in your experience, can a business foster to ensure that more women in experimentation are included?
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had an answer. One is, I think women do need to work to lift each other up. I do think that that's our job. It's a job. It's part of the work, and I know women have enough to do as it is, and it can feel like, really, you're putting one more thing on me. So don't take it as pressure, but we get to help other women. We get to help men too, don't get me wrong. And I think that we will do both of these things. But I do think that if women don't currently have the level of access that we need to be in positions of leadership that can help people who don't look like the standard leader that we've seen for the last ever, we need to do what it takes to get into those roles and then help make those spaces more diverse. And that's just good for CRO, right? Like it's just good for experimentation in particular, because you need to have diversity in order to speak to the diverse audience that is out there. So how do we foster inclusivity for women in the work that we do is, one, lifting each other up. But secondly, it's just this is so obvious, but like just come at it from a position of everybody is equal. When a woman says something in a meeting, you listen to her equally as you do when a man says something. If somebody, woman or man, is cutting somebody else off when they're talking, you stop and you correct that behavior, because very often it is a woman being cut off. That doesn't mean it's only women, but it very often is. Someone thinks, I'm just gonna say what I think now, like, and there's all sorts of crap baked into our heads about women, and that's true for women too. We think the same things about women because we've been raised in the same environment that doesn't hold women up where we belong, no matter how freaking awesome we are. So it's the old saying, just, you don't have to be special. Treat me special. Just like take your foot off my neck. Just stop. Full stop. Do your best to be your best. I mean, these are such cliches, but you have to go into work and practice these things, and we all do. If I am talking to a woman, I have to make sure that I am actively trying not to have biases that are affecting that. Same as if I'm talking to a man, or a woman's talking to me, or a man is talking to me. This is a lot of hard work, right? This is a complete history of women not having a voice. And when you do have a voice, you're annoying, or you're screechy, or whatever other words come up. So we have to be really active in trying to push away all of these unconscious biases we have. But one reason that I think we should be hopeful about that is because as people in experimentation, we were just talking about psychological principles and these triggers. Biases are what we know and understand. We're studying this stuff in order to get really good at this stuff. We're already trying to eliminate biases in our experiments that we run. So if we're doing that, if we're consciously and actively trying to do that or tap into them, we're aware of biases, whatever the case is. We know these things in ways that other industries might not, but it's our job to know them. So I think that we are in a very good position to be able to overcome those biases, because our job is to know them to begin with and do our best to be active in our selection of a bias or our rejection of a bias. So just just always be optimizing. It's really what it comes down to.
Yes, and let women do their job so that they can use their instincts.
Yes. And when we do our job, make sure that we get credit for it. If you don't give a woman credit for it, it is so bad for everybody involved. Just do it. Just give us the credit. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Listen to the guru.
Yes, exactly. Just kidding.
So what do you think the predictions of the future are in CRO for the next few years?
Before we jumped on this call, I had to have a really hard conversation with somebody who works at an organization that's a client, who had arrived at conclusions. I'm like, where did this come from? Like, how are you thinking that? So I'm in a bit of a mood right now, because I'm like, how is this still happening? How are people not understanding that if again, in this particular case, it was, if something isn't statistically significant, we don't draw conclusions, period, full stop. Like, you throw it out. There's nothing you can take from that. Just throw it out. But it's hard because there's like this effect. It's almost like sunk cost effect, I'd imagine, where they're like, but I put all that work into it. And what am I going to report to the business? Well, it was an inconclusive experiment. Here's what you're doing next. So I'm coming into this interview and, we're getting to this point of like, what's the future of it? So I'm not optimistic right in this moment about the future, because I'm like, how is this happening? But I do have an optimistic perspective when it comes to the future of most things other than climate change, which we are not doing anything right there. But that aside, the future of CRO, obviously very heavily facilitated by AI, which is great. Let AI do the job that we don't want to do as marketers. Let's be more strategic and thoughtful, and use our human-powered brains to get ahead. And I mean, honestly, I think we've come through this period where all of the initial like hype around A/B testing has passed, and the people who are now in A/B testing either were dropped there and don't want to be there. So like, we need to get those people out, and we need to bring in a generation of people who understand direct response, who get that we are in this business and we can actually influence what a person does when they land on our website. Like, we need to tap back into that powerful feeling, I think, that's driven a lot of us so far. And if we can do that, which I think that we can, because there's this ebb and flow that happens. If we can just kind of bring that enthusiasm back to experimentation and like the science of it, married with like a little bit of art, right? There's some creativity in there. Then there's lots of reasons to be optimistic. But right now, for me, the immediate future is we need to get people who care about CRO speaking up about it again. If you're running an experiment, talk about it. It doesn't mean you have to share your wins. I think those days are kind of past too. Like, again, this isn't a magic trick, but share what you're learning in like really thoughtful forums. So I would love to see our CRO events go back to really thoughtful, not just technical, because there's a lot of technical there too, but thoughtful conversion strategy that expands beyond an experiment on the page, but also into growth funnels that we're creating for people, how we're implementing things like opening DMs in Instagram to grow businesses, right? Like, what are the things that we can be doing that are very, very interesting when it comes to growth overall? Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, keeping in mind all of the skills that you have captured, what is another skill that you would love to master?
Oof. I would love to be really good at this. Might not, I mean, I know I'm talking about like, I know we're talking about VWO here, but I do like, I like selling directly. And I'm very fascinated right now by like professional salespeople and how they do multi-threading. So how do you, because this is always a thing with CRO, with running experiments, when there's these large organizations that are trying to target people in enterprises, and CRO can sometimes kind of like get flustered there because because everything gets shifted over to sales. I want to better understand how a person who's really good at selling in like a multi-threaded sort of environment where you have to bring in different stakeholders at different times and convince them all, and doing it remotely. If I could crack that, I feel like I would learn so much that we could then apply to experiments that we're running. So that's kind of a skill that is intriguing to me, but it takes a lot to get there.
It's like opening a third eye.
Yeah, really, right? It totally is. Yeah, it's worth trying though, worth the effort.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you've all behind you. Don't worry about it.
Thank you.
So before we conclude the show, is there some final message that you'd love to give women out there who are trying to make it in our industry?
Yeah. Keep going, keep showing up. I've kept showing up for almost 20 years now, 13 of them at Copy Hackers. Just keep doing it. I say, like, push through and make sure that you are bringing other women and people who are maybe in a more like minority sort of situation along with you. And everybody, right? Like that will ultimately mean everybody gets to show up and everybody gets to participate that wants to. But if you really love it, stick with it, keep going, make your ideas heard. If nobody internally is listening to you, you don't have to only stay internal, right? You can start sharing your thoughts as like your own thought leadership on Instagram and in places that where you can really grow and build your authority and hear from people. But you're allowed to use your voice. Use it. Don't be quashed. Don't let people tell you that you can't say that or do that. They're going to tell you that.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might be right, but I'd say, that's the risk you got to take to make that change.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very nice way to put it. I mean, that's how we learn how to walk. And we might as well.
You're going to fall. Yep, totally. Yeah.
So get up and get going, my ladies.
Love it. Yes, do it. And then I'll see you there, and let's all like high five each other and show love to each other all the time. That's the way to do it. Yes.
Oh, I'm hoping and praying maybe someday I can make it to one of your shows. I'm going to do that someday.
That was so fun. We'll have a big hug and we'll take a photo and share it, and everybody else can hug, and it'll be great.
Cool. So now, surprise for you, we will do a short rapid fire.
Okay, let's do it. I suck at these, but let's try.
Cool. So number one, what are your top 3 apps that you cannot live without?
Ooh, for teaching, I use, I write on Sketchbook in front, like as part of my teaching these days. So Sketchbook helps me mock things up live when I'm like showing somebody something. Love that. Can't live without Instagram because our team is so big on it now. So now I am. And as part of that, and this is just outside of like work, right? This is me growing my business too. ManyChat is our newest fascination, the tool ManyChat. So obviously for experimentation, VWO, but I wouldn't call it an app because it's so powerful. But yeah, those are my can't live without them.
Thank you very much for our mention.
Thanks for having a cool tool.
So number 2, if a movie was made out of you, what do you think the title should be named?
Oh, Lord. Ooh. So the first word that came to my head was, for copywriters, we know about stages of awareness. I would want it to be most aware, but then I was like, probably unaware.
Oh, geez.
Like, so much I need to learn. I don't know. I think the word awareness might be in it, though.
That's really crazy. Another way how to use a single word as a copy.
Exactly.
Cool. Number 3, one thing that you'd like to change about the CRO industry.
Oh, more women. Yeah, more women talking more loudly. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Crazy. Number 4, what's the most random fact that you know by heart?
Honestly, I'm so like, I do one thing really well and everything else I suck at. So a fact. I'm sorry, I suck at rapid fire.
Oh, geez.
I'm like so thoughtful. Like, I'm not thoughtful, but like I require a lot of think time. I mean, my first one that I know very well is because of Jerry Maguire, but I'm going to say it. Dogs and bees smell fear.
I know. My dog keeps barking and I keep feeling that there are ghosts around me. And my dog's like, why, lady? Go to bed, please.
That's amazing. When my dog barks at something out of the blue, I'm like, is there a ghost? Is there a ghost? Do you see a ghost? Yeah. Totally.
I keep telling my husband, this is not happening. He's seeing a ghost.
That's so funny. He's just barking, but it's just like, yeah, there's a ghost there. There's something spooky there for sure. I love that.
And number 5, your guilty pleasure TV show or movie.
Oh, any Real Housewives as a guilty pleasure. Oh yeah, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, if I can get it. Oh, they have. Man, do you watch it? Do you watch Real Housewives?
Oh, so you've seen the initial ones when I was not in India. I grew up elsewhere, but when I came back, I don't have access to it. Oh, Jesus Christ. So now I'm like...
So my husband watches the TV show Cops because it makes him feel better about himself. That's what he says. And it occurred to me when he said that I think that's why I watch Real Housewives and love it, because I'm like, if you can have all of the money in the world and live in like this beautiful location and you can still be really off, I feel better about myself. Like, you have bad priorities and you make all the wrong decisions, even though you have access to things that we think make life easier. That's that.
That's crazy. Yes, I'd like to look at it that in a way that, okay, they are dramatic. I'm not dramatic. Tell my husband that.
Exactly. You think I'm high maintenance? Let me show you.
Oh my. Number 6, if you had a podcast, who's the first person you'd invite on the show?
On my podcast? Well, now you, after talking with you. That'd be so fun. Yeah. And my friend April Dunford. I love her. We click so well. And I think it'd be fun to talk with her. Yeah. The 3 of us can do one together.
Done. I'm game, and thank you so much.
That's so fun. I love it.
Yes. So 3 books that you would recommend to our listeners.
Yes. If you haven't read Cialdini's Influence, I'd be surprised. Make sure you pick that up and read it. It's a quick read. Let's see. Well, I just mentioned April, and obviously Awesome goes a long way. So I'd say that by April Dunford. It's a fantastic book. And a newer one. Oof. Oh, there's so many. But 10x is easier than 2x is a great read if you are struggling with like the growth side. Like, I know experimentation is one part of growth, but some of us really struggle to come up with big ideas and set big goals. And this will like break that for you. You won't have that same problem anymore. The thinking small thing gets replaced by, okay, I can think big. I can do this big. Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm going to get them all.
Good. Yay. Wonderful.
Yes. Hey, what is the superpower that you would love to have?
Invisibility.
Oh,
Just eavesdrop on everybody. I would listen to everything.
oh,
Everything everywhere.
oh, makes our job so much easier then.
Totally, exactly. Yes.
Oh, jeez. Ninth, one thing that you're tired of explaining to your boss or your client.
Right now, I would say statistical significance. Just like, what? Are we still talking about this? Okay. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh, Lord.
You're very. Number 10, one goal or dream that you would like to achieve in the next 3 years.
I want to buy a big plot of land and turn it into a flower farm.
That is so cool.
I know. That's
Cool.
my thing I do on the side. I suck at it so far, but I'm going to get good at it, at gardening. Because I live in an area with like everything just grows. Like everything just grows. So I have no excuse anymore. It's like, okay, you should probably get good at this because it's easy here. So you might as well. So yeah.
Good. You will
Yeah.
love it. I am also into gardening. We grow our own vegetables. You will
Yes.
absolutely fall in love with it. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes, I've spent the last 2 years now getting into it and like pruning my peach tree, which is like, oh, did I kill it? I didn't kill it. It's alive. And like all of those great moments. So yeah, that's so cool. I love that you grow your own stuff. I love it. So fun and relaxing and like good when you work in digital, you work with your hands finally, right? It's nice.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. And you take a breath of good air. You respect life. You have
Yes.
respect for your job.
Yes,
Oh,
totally. And you get to like, for me, I get to interact with things that like you can be gardening and there's like a praying mantis there. And I'm like, it's a praying mantis just sitting in my garden? This is so bananas. Like it's so wild.
yeah.
So I love it. I love this exposure to things that have otherwise just been on a screen. Yeah.
I completely agree. And
Yeah.
there's a bonus one from me.
Oh, okay, fun.
Would you be able to reveal your book title so that I can favorite it on Amazon and look for it?
Oh, yeah. So I have not written the book yet. So I have a few books that I've put out there over the years, like smaller things, but this one is a work in progress right now. It's tentatively called Mine, MINE, and it's all about how to find messages that will make people buy. So it's about going out and review mining and mining data, etc., to find those messages. And then the mine part is, of course, make it mine. Like when I buy it, it's like I fall in love with it, and that's why it works so well. So coming soon, but not ready yet.
Oh my God, it's a beautiful play with words, and I'm already touched, and I'm waiting to look for it.
Thank you. Okay, I'll let you know as soon as something's ready to go there.
Yes, and I'm sure our audiences would also love to know, and we'd love to come back.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for doing this. I hope a lot of men listen to these. I know it's tough when it's about women, but I really, really hope that that's the case, and we want to work together. So let's do it.
Yes, I agree. And with the good energy that you've put out there, and with all the good energies that helped shape you, I'm sure it's going to resonate, and we'll be able to get a lot of us, all humans together in
yes. I love it. Love it. Yay. Thank you.
No problem. And thank you so much for your time. Have a fun weekend.
Thanks, you too. Take care.